Bonjour, and welcome into The Cave, the podcast where we dive deep into song lyrics that resonate with our personal experiences. I am Julia, your host. In each episode, we take a closer look at a specific part of a song's lyrics, unpacking the emotions and stories they evoke, and connecting them to our own lives. Whether you're here to find comfort, understanding, or simply a shared moment of reflection, I'm glad you're here. Today, we are diving into the lyrics of New Scream by Turnover. Adolescent's dreams gave to adult screams. It's quite a powerful image, right? We grow up with all these dreams and ideas about what life will be like as an adult, and then reality hits. And sometimes it feels like you're just screaming to cope with the pressures and disappointments. This line perfectly summarizes that shift from the idealism of youth to the harsh realities of adulthood. This song is from their album Peripheral Vision, which for me is such a paradoxical record. On the surface, the music is upbeat and dreamy. It feels light, airy, sometimes even cute, with those gentle floating vocals. But when you really dig into the lyrics, there's so much depth and darkness. It's almost like this beautiful disguise over something much more serious. You know that meme with those two houses next to each other? One's this pink house and the other one is all black. I think it's from somewhere in California. Anyway, that's peripheral vision in a nutshell. The pink house represents the music, soft, light, breezy. And the black house, that's the lyrics, dark, introspective, and full of raw emotion. It's such an interesting contrast, and honestly, that's one of the reasons it's one of my favorite records. I found this interview Turnover did with New Furry, where they explain what New Scream is really about. They said, I quote, "That song is pretty much about having the feeling that everything, no matter how exciting it is at the beginning, eventually loses its spark. You're always kind of chasing that same feeling you had the first time you experienced something, but you never quite get there. It's a hard lesson to learn that everything fades and you have to deal with that. Nothing is ever gonna feel the same as it did the first time." Unquote. That idea that everything fades is so relatable. I mean, how often do we start something new and exciting, whether it's a hobby, a relationship, or even a job, and at first we're completely wrapped up in it? But over time, that thrill starts to wear off. You lose that sense of novelty, and that's hard. It's hard to realize that we'll never get that exact same spark back. I love the imagery of adult screams because sometimes it feels like that, right? Like when you wake up and you already want to scream before you've even started the day. It could be something as simple as checking your emails, seeing one more thing you have to deal with, one more task added to the never-ending list. I remember when we were teenagers, we used to think that adult life would be this amazing, carefree thing. We would look at all the exams and stress from school and think, once I get through this, I'll be free. Spoiler alert, it doesn't exactly work like that. And yet, I don't think that's the end of the story. Yes, the spark fades, but I also believe it's up to us to keep on dreaming. And it's not about dreaming of being rich or famous or super successful. It's about dreaming of living a life full of experiences that light us up, whether that's trying new things, finding new passions, or even just cherishing the small moments that bring us joy. I turned 30 last year, and honestly, I feel like I'm still learning what it means to dream as an adult. First off, let's just acknowledge that 30 is totally the new 20. I mean, look at how the characters in TV shows have evolved over the years. In the 90s, shows like Friends had everyone in their early 20s, figuring out life. But now, with shows like New Girl, for example, they are all aging toward 30, and that feels way more realistic. There's less pressure to have everything figured out in your early 20s because we now know that life doesn't move that fast. And let's not forget, while I said it's not about being rich, there's something to be said about having adult money. Being able to buy yourself what you want, experience things, or just treat yourself once in a while, it feels good. But if you're not putting your heart into what you do, those adult screams will keep happening because no amount of money or success can replace passion or fulfillment. But I'm also completely aware that even if you pour your heart into something, there is a chance you'll end up screaming anyway. Sometimes caring too much, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, makes us scream even louder. The Devil Wears Prada explores this concept in their song Ritual. They have this line, "Know your future, give up your dreams." In the song, they talk about how if you want certainty, if you want to know exactly what your future will look like and have this reassurance, you might have to give up on your dreams. Because following dreams involves risk and uncertainty. You're stepping into the unknown, and there's always a chance that things won't work out the way you hope. But that's the thing about dreams, right? If you succeed, you win big, but if you fail, the fall can be brutal. It's about finding a balance between wanting security and taking that leap. As we get older, it's easy to grow cynical. We've all been disappointed by life at some point, maybe by people or situations that didn't go out the way we expected. And like Turnover says, nothing's ever gonna feel the same as it did the first time. You lose that initial excitement, even in the things you love the most. For me, for example, I've noticed it with concerts. Don't get me wrong, I still love going to shows. But it's not the same level of excitement I had the first time I went to a concert after the pandemic. By the way, do you remember your first show after all the restrictions were lifted? For me, it was supposed to be nothing but thieves. But of course, I caught COVID the week before. The first and only time I got it. And to help you see it, my mailbox is directly on my apartment door. Like the letters go directly in my corridor. And I had to sell my tickets through it. The whole situation was so absurd that I couldn't even be upset. Luckily, I got to see them later. But my first post-COVID show ended up being Landmarks, which is, I think, actually the band I've seen the most live. And ironically enough, they are French, I'm French, but I've only seen them in Germany. At some point though, I started to feel like I was losing the spark for concerts. I wasn't as excited as I used to be, and part of that was because of this huge fear of missing out, or FOMO, I developed. After concerts were taken away from us, I thought I'm never missing a show again. I started going to every concert I could, even for bands I barely knew. It was like, what if I missed something amazing? But eventually, I had to let go of that. Otherwise, I'd be at a show every week, seeing the same bands over and over. I mean, this is how I found myself seeing Sleep Token 5 times in 2 years. Not that I'm complaining, but you get the idea. And FOMO could definitely be a topic for another episode because it's such a big thing for so many of us. Let's see, maybe in the coming weeks. But you know what? Maybe it's just about change. I was going to say growing up, but I don't think it's about age. We all evolve as people and that's okay. Sometimes we outgrow things. We find new passions, new hobbies, and some of them stick with us while others don't. And that's totally fine. You just need to find what still gives you that spark. And sometimes the spark fades, but you might come back to it later, realizing how much you still love it. It's like when you binged something to it for weeks and then suddenly get sick of it. But months later, you try again and remember how good it was. And here's something I've learned. Constantly chasing that spark, that high, can actually make you lose it faster. We're always looking for the next exciting thing, the next thrill. But sometimes it's okay to slow down. We need to find joy in the quiet moments, the moments where nothing is happening. Those are the times our brain gets to reset, to recharge. Then, when something exciting does happen, we appreciate it more. Life isn't always about living in that constant state of excitement. For most of us, life is a little bit the same every week. We go to work, we have our habits and routines outside of work. For some people, that sounds boring. But there's also comfort in that stability. It makes the moments outside the routine stand out more. And if you really think about it, there are probably things in your life that you never get tired of, no matter how repetitive they seem. For me, it's little things, like watching my cats just live their little cat lives. It still melts my heart every time. Or hot water. This is gonna sound weird, but my shower barely got warm for about 2 years. Then we fixed it. And yeah, we waited for a long time, but this is an old apartment and we thought that it was just the way it was. And now every time I take a hot shower, it's like pure joy. And don't get me started on walking by the river near my apartment. I never get tired of it. It's moments like this that remind me how lucky I am. And those are the sparks worth holding on to. I think if teenage Julia could see me now, she'd be pretty happy. Sure, life is not perfect, but I'm enjoying it and I'm doing my best. And I've proven that it wasn't just a phase. I remember being so desperate to belong to a group when I was younger. Do you guys remember MySpace? It was where I saw that there was a community of people who shared my taste in music, but most of them were in the US. Now, I've built my own community of friends with all different tastes and backgrounds, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. And the thing is, when the spark fades, you have two options: fight for it or let it go. Sometimes it's okay to let things go. Maybe that's what needs to happen. But a lot of the time, the spark fades because we've let things fall into a routine. For a hobby, for example. You might feel like you lost that spark because you feel like you have reached a plateau and cannot progress anymore. And fighting, in that case, comes by trying new things, pushing yourself a bit further, accepting to fail and trying again. Until one day, you will finally see results and progress. Same for relationships. They need effort, just like anything else we care about. It's about speaking your partner's love language over and over again, whether that's through little acts of kindness, compliments, or just spending quality time together. Sleep Token nails this concept in their song Take Me Back to Eden when they sing, "No amount of love will keep it around if we don't choose it." The spark isn't going to maintain itself. You need to choose to keep it. So when you feel that spark fading, whether it's in a relationship, a hobby, or anything else, ask yourself, do I just need a break? Sometimes stepping away for a little while is all you need. And I don't mean a break in a relationship. I don't believe in those. But just take time to focus on yourself and recharge. This could be just doing activities on your own without your partner. All couples have their own dynamics. It's just about finding your own. To tie it all back to New Scream, it's okay if your life doesn't look like what teenage you imagined. I mean, life has a way of surprising us. But take a moment to zoom out and look at the bigger picture. You might realize that there's a lot more to be grateful for than you thought. And even if the spark fades, there's always a chance to reignite it in new ways. You just have to stay open to the possibility. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you relate to it, I hope that it can help you accept that life sometimes can get a bit dull or mundane, but that those moments make the exciting ones even better. If you liked the episode, please leave a review and follow me on Instagram at IntoTheCavePod. You can also share with me what lyrics you relate to the most. I would love to hear those. I will see you again next week with new hard-hitting lyrics. Be kind to yourself. Bye!